In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro led the act of notification of the will of the Venezuelan people in a consultative referendum in defense of the territory of Essequibo, Guyana. Palestinian authorities announced that in the last 24 hours, Israel committed 24 massacres in which at least 316 civilians were killed in Gaza Strip, while 100 remain under the rubble as Israeli siege continues. And in the COP28 summit, the president of the World Bank said that the organization was committing a total of $15 billion from both International Development Association and private sector funding to help 100 million people across Africa. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Rosabal from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, led the act of notification of the will of the Venezuelan people in a consultative referendum in defense of the territory of Essequibo, Guyana. The event began with a presentation by the president of the National Electoral Council, Elvis Amoroso, who described the electoral process carried out on Sunday as an overwhelming victory for the yes during the event. A record of the results of the election was handed over to President Nicolás Maduro and the president of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez. The head of the Venezuela Toda campaign also addressed Venezuelan people before the authorities and highlighted the importance of the patriotic spirit addressed by Venezuelans who participated in the referendum. For his part, Maduro highlighted the historical democratic nature of the Venezuelan Republic and used the referendum mechanism as a way to give voice to the people's mandate. After the electoral authority highlighted the participation in the consultative referendum, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, also referred to its citizens as prepared people, capable of answering the 5 questions of the referendum.
You should see their faces once they realize that we're doing a referendum, a complicated referendum with 5 questions. And our people have participated and have answered these questions, showing that we have a people, Venezuelan people, with high educational level.
On his part, the president of the National Electoral Council, Elvis Amoroso, on behalf of the authority of the electoral power, highlighted the people's participation in Sunday's consultative referendum in defense of the Essequibo with over 10 million votes issued, most of which answered yes to the proposed questions.
So we would like to inform that over 10 million people participating today in this referendum, and most of them, the great majority of these people, answered yes to these questions, and these numbers will increase gradually, taking into account there are still some voting stations that are still counting votes. Thanks to the Venezuelan people to come to these voting stations and cast their votes, to vote united.
And continuing on this coverage of Sunday's Essequibo referendum day in Venezuela, we bring these statements by Venezuela's defense minister speaking from the strategic headquarters of the Venezuelan army.
I would like to congratulate the Venezuelan people. We are writing new pages in history in the 21st century. And well, I would like to congratulate every person in the armed forces for guaranteeing a peaceful day today without incidents. They did an excellent job during this day. So we can say that we did not have any negative actions or events during this day.
In Argentina, more than 200 flamingos and other wild birds died after an outbreak of avian flu. According to the authorities, birds died in the province of Catamarca after being infected with the so-called H5N1 flu. According to reports, avian influenza has a high transmission rate and is potentially fatal, being predominant in wild waterfowls such as ducks, geese, swans, and birds. In this context, the World Health Organization detailed that since 2020, avian influenza has spread to more than 80 countries in America and Europe, and urged population worldwide to take the corresponding biosecurity measures. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, new days, and more. Our study is coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. Palestinian authorities announced that in the last 24 hours, Israel committed 24 massacres in which at least 316 civilians were killed in the Gaza Strip, while hundreds remain under the rubble. Israeli forces intensified bombing raids on residential areas in the besieged Palestinian enclave on Sunday. In its southern city of Rafah, at least 76 civilians were killed and dozens were wounded after Israeli fighter jets bombed 2 homes. The population announces that the occupation regime is attacking places designated as safe for civilians. In its context, they report that more than 6,600 children have been killed since October 7th. Before midnight on Sunday, an Israeli drone fired a missile on the north gate of the Kamal Adwan hospital, killing at least 4 people and wounding 9 others, including children and women. Around 10,000 people were on the premises of the medical center, sheltering from the constant Israeli attacks. According to Palestinian authorities, at least 99 corpses have been moved to the hospital. Simultaneously with the bombardments, the Israeli occupation forces suspended the ground invasion and stormed into the city of Khan Yunis, south of the Gaza Strip. A correspondent of the Palestinian Wafa news agency said that Zionist military vehicles were stationed near Al-Manidin crossing amid heavy fire from fighter jets and shelling by tanks, artillery, and planes. Israeli occupation forces on Sunday night ordered immediate evacuations in the south of the Gaza Strip prior to new bombing raids on the Palestinian territory. The Israeli army declared that the offensive operations against Hamas resistance forces will not decrease in intensity compared to those previously carried out in the northern part of the Gaza Strip, and that it will not respect the no zone in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. Displaced Palestinians expressed that they do not currently feel safe to seek refuge anywhere in the closed area bordering Israel and Egypt. As of today, a significant percentage of Gaza's Palestinian residents are crowded in the south after Israel ordered civilians to leave the north in the early days of the conflict. Foreign Minister of Iran Hossein Amir-Abdollahian warned on Sunday of a deep expansion of war in the region of Israeli attacks on the Palestinian people pursue. On a joint briefing, Foreign Minister of Iran Amir-Abdollahian with his counterpart of Oman Saeed Bad al-Busaidi unfolded that in talks with the recent leaders he received a crystal clear message that if the current situation continues, the region will enter a new phase of hostilities. The foreign minister condemns the hundreds of war crimes committed by Israel on a daily basis and urged Egypt to reopen the Rafah crossing. In Lebanon, Hamas representative declared that future negotiations with Israel and possible prisoner exchanges will depend strictly on the cessation attacks by the Zionist entity.
In light of the occupation's impediment to an extension of the humanitarian truce, and with the continuation of the Nazi aggression against our people, we affirm that the resumption of prisoner exchange negotiations will depend on the cessation of the aggression and ceasefire. Before that, there will not be.
The representative also stated that Israeli settlers have not been able to break through the defenses of the Palestinian resistance on the border of southern Gaza.
Speaking of the southern entrance to Gaza, yes, the bombardment started in the south, and there is no distinction between what was declared a safe zone and an unsafe zone. However, discussing the southern entry remains a medium tactic. Israel has so far been unable to break through the defenses of the Hamas resistance, even if it were to cross the southern borders. Resistance in the south will be no less fierce than in the north.
President of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, arrived in Berlin on Sunday to hold bilateral cooperation meetings with Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz. On Monday, President Lula and Chancellor Scholz will lead the second meeting of high-level intergovernmental consultations with the participation of ministers from both nations. The authority must base on several affairs and later sign an array of deals in environmental, agricultural, scientific, and technological areas, among others, for bilateral cooperation. Lula's visit represents a high time for revitalizing cooperative relations between the two countries. Violation of international law rights organizations to Dutch state over F-35 parts to Israel. Lawyers representing human rights organizations in the Netherlands take the Dutch state to court, asking judges to rule that the state should stop its supply of F-35 parts to Israel, saying there is a risk that the fighter jets could be used to commit human rights violations. The Dutch state dispute the allegations, and legally, according to Dutch regulation and according to European regulation, is not such much the fact that there are violations of international law, but that there is a risk of those, says the director of Novid, Michel Terbaes.
We were already appalled by the fact that the Dutch government is politically supporting what's happening there. But then we found out that they're also supplying elements of fighter jets to Israel, despite the fact that they know there is a risk that civilians will get killed by that. So that's where we drew the line and said, we need to go to court to fight this.
We have a second show break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as for the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Final job break, don't go away. Welcome back. The president of the World Bank said on Monday that the organization was committed a total of $50 million from both International Development Association and private sector funding to help 100 million people across Africa. Speaking at the COP28 in Dubai, Ajay Banja said $5 million from IDA and $10 million from private sector would fund solar energy and grids. The COP28 put its attention on Monday on how developing countries could possibly pay trillions of dollars that experts say they will need to cope with global warming. Banja's announcement was part of laying out 5 target areas in the climate finance. The World Bank wants to lower methane emissions from waste management and farming and help Africa with greener energy, support voluntary carbon markets such as for forest projects, and allow developing countries hit by natural disaster to pause debt payments.
"45% of our financing will go to climate by 2025. I'm really keen to keep it in a short frame. 25 is 2 years away. We will get to 45% by then. Of that, half will go to adaptation and half to mitigation, because we cannot make climate only be about emissions. It has to be about the downstream impact that the global south is facing from those emission-heavy growth that we have enjoyed in other parts of the world."
On Sunday, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel arrived in Tehran as part of a tour of several Middle Eastern countries. The given letter was received by the Iranian Minister of Public Health and Medical Education, Bahram A. Nolaji, in a visit that takes place within the framework of strengthening existing ties and giving continuity to the high level of exchange of political dialogue that exists between Cuba and the Middle Eastern country. Iran is the last destination of the President's tour, which took place in order to enhance economic and trade relations and bilateral political ties between Iran, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko arrived in China on Monday for the second time this year to further strengthen cooperation ties between Minsk and Beijing. Lukashenko was received by the Chinese Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs Ma Xiaosu at the International Airport of Beijing and is expected to meet with the Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping this Monday. The president's visit will last until December 4th, and the agenda indicates that commercial, economic, investment, and international cooperation issues will be discussed for the benefit of both countries, in addition to a series of social and humanitarian events. The talks between the President of the People's Republic of China, Xi Jinping, and the President of Belarus are expected to take place in Beijing. On Monday, Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin at the press briefing in Beijing said that China-Laos Railway has become an important engine promoting economic and trade cooperation and people-to-people exchanges between the two countries. Marking the second anniversary, the China-Laos Railway has promoted regional connectivity and injected vitality into economic and social development along the line, narrating a success story of a high-quality belt and road cooperation. Throughout the effort of both countries, the China-Laos Railway has become a road of happiness, development, and friendship. It is expected to unleash more potential for driving regional economic cooperation and development in the future. In the United Kingdom, heavy snowfall wreaked havoc on motorists and the power supply of thousands of homes. Officials noted that the snow forced motorists to seek shelter, spend the night in their cars, and left more than 2,500 customers without power. Cumbria Fire and Rescue Service reported that it worked through the night to get drivers out of the cars trapped in the snow. Similarly, Cumbria Police Superintendent Andy Wilkinson said the storm was more significant than expected, and people were urged Sunday not to travel to the country. On Sunday, the Merapi volcano erupted in sunny western Indonesia, and 11 hikers found dead, and 12 others are still missing. Among the emergency services reported that at least 11 people were dead and dozens were still missing after a night of searching in which 3 hikers were found alive. The eruption of Mount Merapi on the island of Sumatra at an altitude of almost 2,900 meters spelled a column of ash 3 kilometers high, preventing helicopter evacuations. Merapi, whose name means Mountain of Fire, is the most active volcano in Sumatra. The authorities have imposed a 3-kilometer exclusion zone around its crater. The inhabitants of the nearest villages were given masks in order to stay in their homes. And a day after the Merapi volcano, located in western Sumatra, erupted, bodies of more than 8 climbers have been recovered. Meanwhile, activity in the crater has reached levels not seen since 2011. Authorities have cordoned off the area, and all people within a 3-kilometer radius of the mountain have been barred. For the time being, rescue teams continue to search for 12 people. We have come to the end of this brief, but before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscasts and contribute to provide an alternative news source of the latest world events. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Ana Rosabal. Thank you for watching.